Hello, my fellow hunters. Let me pose you a question I've been mulling over recently. How hard does Monster Hunter need to be?
Hard as a rock!
Shara, I guess thank you for your input, honestly. I need to stop just recording these videos in front of every single monster. I don't know what I expect. They just chip in when I least expect it. Jesus Christ! I'm talking about difficulty today! Because someone asked me, alright, is World/Iceborne easier than the older games? And don't get me wrong, this was something that came up a lot back in early World when people were adjusting to new everything, but I've been kind of considering it a little bit further, and I don't think the question, is the old style harder than the new, is the correct question. I think they're very different types of difficulty, each with their own pros and cons, and each with a lot that can be, well, improved upon. You see, in the old games, a lot of the difficulty admittedly came from how you actually interact with the game. It was very clunky, hitboxes weren't the best, plus the off, and a lot of the time it felt like bullshit! But then when we get to World and Iceborne, and I can honestly say this, no matter how I might feel at the time, the rush of anger at being carted, but I can honestly say I can maybe count on one hand in 2,000 hours how many times I genuinely think the game screwed me over in World and Iceborne. Whereas in the old games, I was a lot more than that, let's say. And whether that's just bias towards, well, the new world, I don't know, but it's definitely the feeling I've gotten from both myself and from a lot of other people. Because you have the fact that the weapons used to be so much clunkier to use. They got a little bit less so in Generations Ultimate. The hunter arts and the hunting styles really gave you a lot more fluidity, at least probably as much as you can get in that old engine. But there were still moments of, whereas in the new game, all the weapons, how you interact with the game, the motion, the controls, if you want a thing to do, well, then you make it happen. You're not being stopped by anything other than yourself, your own reaction time, your own input precision. Like, I absolutely deserved, well, this. Because it's just me being absolutely trash rusty at longsword. It's not the weapon's fault, it's not Velkana's fault, it's not the game's fault, it's just me. Whereas in the older games, there's a few moments where I'm like, why didn't that's just annoying, why does it do that? Everything's faster, it's more fluid in World, everything flows, and you can feel that. But the thing is, because it's got so much easier to interact with the game on a moment-to-moment mechanical level, monsters had to catch up. And the perfect example of this to me is Rajang. He has always been absolutely brutal. He has his reputation for a reason. But I also think Iceborne Rajang is both the easiest and hardest iteration of him we've ever had. So how can that be? Well, in the old games, he would hit like a truck and he was fast, but he was fast for the old games. After every move, he would kind of stop and think and pause a little bit. He had windows, he had much more forgiving timings because you were a lot slower in how you could operate as a hunter. It matched up, and that's a very basic way of putting it. But the point is, if you added old Rajang to Iceborne, and didn't make any changes to how he operated or his moveset or his animations, apart from looking out of place aesthetically, he would just, it would be animal cruelty, it really would. But what they had to do then was catch him up to, well, the power of the player, not just our numeric strength, but our strength of control now, our speed of hunting, the tools available. That's why new Rajang doesn't stop, he doesn't pause, he doesn't have breather moments, he doesn't have these windows that he used to have. Even when you send him flying, he'll grab onto a wall and come straight back at you. It's non-stop. There's no attack him now, there's just try and attack him at some point. Oh my god! And that is its own type of fun. It's its own kind of intense, heart-pounding ballet of death, but it loses a little bit of that methodicalness that you could get from the old Rajang. Which one is better? It's hard to say, but that's why he's both harder and easier, because with all of the tools and control in world, and maybe this is just coming from someone with experience in Monster Hunter, maybe if you fought your first ever Rajang in Iceborne, you don't agree with this, but for me, objectively, how he operates his speed and moveset is by far the hardest he's ever been, but actually taking him down has also been the easiest it's ever been. So it's hard to correlate those things, and it's just due to simply how we as the hunters are allowed to operate and how much smoother it is. Now, I realize I've labored on that point more than I wanted to, but this leads to a kind of issue that is compounded by how easy it is to heal in Iceborne. And I'm not going to be like, oh, you should have to stand still while you take a potion and do a little bit of a flex. Because let's be honest, the idea of was always ridiculous, and moving is fine. It's just more fun, and it's not inherently that much easier. Monsters are so much faster in Iceborne, it matches up. But what I mean is between health augments, with now Safi armor 2, with how many potions you can carry, with being able to restock, you just have so much healing. I mean, answer me this honestly, how many of you have carted due to being literally out of healing, so you either have to not get hit, or you die because you can't recover anymore? Well, let's just say everyone who has had that happen, go stand in the hot springs in the gathering hub. Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. And look, don't get me wrong, maybe a couple of you had that happen. And yes, in Arena, there's certain maps and certain situations where you can't just pop back to camp when you're out of healing and grab new healing. And maybe there's certain situations where you run out unexpectedly and the monster gets you before you can successfully disengage. But they're fringe cases. And by and large, it's just very smooth and easy to heal. And look, to address the whole tent restocking thing, I wanted to come into this video saying, honestly, World Iceborne as it is, but you can't grab new healing items in the tent mid-hunt, probably would be perfect. But the more that I think about it, the more I don't want to say that, because, look, having a safety tent is nice. The big scary monster can't get me in here. The big scary monster can't get me in here. Here, have a sausage. And when I compare it to the old games, is it really better to be walking around going, please, for the love of God, gather me a herb. I need healing. I need any kind of healing. I just do. Or to make your walk of shame trips back to base camp to sleep for a full heal, walking all the way back across the map, fighting the monster for like 30 seconds, getting hit, walking all the way back to the heal bed, and then just repeating because it's 45 minutes into the hunt and you just want to move on with the game. And I've had that a few times, and look, it is immensely satisfying when you have been fighting for nearly the entire 50 minutes, you've used all your healing 20 minutes ago, and you have been scrounge healing from gathering and from the bed, desperately whittling away slowly at the monster, and it goes down, it's like, yes! But at the same time, running back and sleeping in the bed is no real different from running back and grabbing new potions. It just saves you making the trip over and over and over, which inherently isn't fun. It's not. It just isn't. If you died after doing that, after nearly 50 minutes, you're just angry. But at the same time, because of this ease of healing and the smoothness of gameplay, in order to make things difficult in Iceborne, you have to make moves hit really hard. because people don't get hit that much, and tiny little hits get healed back up really efficiently. And look, in the old games, things hit like a truck. You start getting to extreme deviance, nearly everything would one-shot you. But, you know, in the more general, average hunting gameplay, in Iceborne, things have got really inflated on the damage that you take. Endgame World had as well, with Tempered, of course, and eventually Arch-Tempered, making that a really big deal. But even stuff like Safi moves absolutely blast you for over half your health, because it needs to. In order for stuff to be truly threatening in how that currently works, it has to absolutely clobber you, so you actually do have to spend that time healing up from it. Even if it is easy to do, you do have to spend that time, because little bits of chip damage don't really matter anymore, whereas in the old world they really did, because the old style, it was much more of a war of attrition. Because of that limited healing stock, if you burnt through it, you're fucked, or running back to a bed. And you had to avoid every little bit of damage, whereas now it's mostly avoid the big hits, everything else is kinda fine, which isn't inherently worse, it's just kind of different. And I'll be honest, I prefer lots of little bits of damage that are harder to avoid over big, huge damage that's easy to avoid, but it's a huge punishment for actually not doing, which I'd say is more what's going on, at least when you fight the upper tiers and tempered monsters. And I think a good way to look at it is, if I'm on 95% health, I'm gonna drink a mega potion just to top myself off, because why not? Or, you know, obviously a health augment would do it, but the point is I don't have to really consider using the potion inefficiently. Whereas in the old game, you're there using, alright, I'll use a mega potion, then I'll use a normal potion, then I'll use a herb, and that will get me to 98% health, and then I'll just stick on that, because I don't want to waste anything, because I'll need to get the full healing out of it later. And I guess there was more weight to pressing that heal button before, and that's kind of detracted a little bit. But I definitely think Monster Hunter works better when it is that war of attrition, where it is who's gonna drop first, who's gonna run out of steam first, the monster or you. Whereas now it's kind of, well, what's gonna happen first? You kill the monster, or he hits you for something that does 80-90% of your health in one blow, and then you get sort of tapped afterwards and finished off. I mean, look at stuff like Lunastra Nova. It easily wipes teams because that singular move is so powerful. But it needs to be, because otherwise it would be a joke to survive. Whereas in the old game, it wouldn't have needed to be that powerful, because it would have been threatening enough just with how much it has to drain your healing supplies, even if the full thing didn't kill you. So for me, where I'm going with this is, I think the games are as difficult as each other in different ways. But I think Iceborne's, or, well, the new style's difficulty is get hit big, heal up easy, get hit big, heal up easy, and that's about it. That's back and forth. Whereas I realize that's very black and white, but it's kind of the feeling I get, and I kind of want more different styles of difficulty. You know, that's why Bleed is one of my favorite statuses, probably my favorite, honestly, because when you're bled, you have to make a lot of interesting decisions. Your health's going down, so do you ignore it and keep fighting normally and hoping that you don't get hit by anything else? You trust your evasion, you trust your health augment, or do you get rid of it? Do you stand still and get rid of it? And standing still in a Monster Hunter fight is one of course, the worst things that you can do. So you have to choose between going through an intense moment of, oh god, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me, okay, it's gone, roll, 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 or I can handle bleeding for a little bit till there's a safer opportunity, and that's fun. I want monsters to play with different types of difficulty like that. I want monsters that obscure your screen. I've talked about this a few times, that affect your literal vision. Like something with ink maybe splatters onto you, and your actual camera goes dark, and you really can't tell where the monster is, and you have to use your knowledge of him and hope for the best, and then the difficulty there is avoiding, and maybe he doesn't do huge damage during that, but the difficulty is in avoiding, or maybe if he hits you during that, you take a really bad debuff, or difficulty akin to the soil debuff that good old conga la 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 and a few do introduce. You can't use heal healing items for a good while unless you clear the debuff. That's interesting, you have to think about that. Have I brought the item to clear it? When do I find the opportunity to use it? Do I trust myself to just let it wear out naturally? Am I on full health when it affected me, so it's probably fine? Am I on 10% health and he hit me with it? Holy fuck, I can't get back up, I just need to run! You know, that's really neat, that's fun. Things that actually play with your ability to heal, or how your health bar is actually working. You know, really different things going off. Stuff like, obviously, burning is a little version of it, and don't get me wrong, there is lots of this stuff across the monsters. I'm speaking very black and white plainly here, but I guess the TLDR of what I'm trying to say is I feel like this is a problem for the future, because as we get stronger and stronger and stronger, so do the monsters. They have to hit harder and harder and harder to keep threatening us as we get more and more and more tools. Look at the Clutch Claw, how much it's added being able to constantly knock a monster down every time it's not enraged. You have to give the monsters such potent abilities to strike back that it loses room for little hits that are more creative or tricky, because they just don't matter, they get shrugged off so easy. And I could be rose tinting glasses this, I really could be. Super endgame efficiency of destroying monsters is the same across both games. You just don't get hit as a team of 4, you chain flinch and destroy and it's fine, but you know, an average experience, I think there was maybe more to think about in your damage intake in the old games than there is in the new, but that doesn't mean it was necessarily more fun. Iceborne, to me, is the best Monster Hunter game ever. It's a masterpiece, it's glorious. There's a few key problems, but by and large, it's just excellent, and I can't wait to see where this goes. I just hope we get different types of difficulty, maybe not within Iceborne, but in the next one, Monster Hunter 6, Next Generation, that kind of takes us beyond just being hit really hard, because that's the only way to really threaten how powerful we've become, not just item-wise, but how well we can control our hunters now. So, that's about what I have to say. I don't know if any of this really made sense, I just kind of wanted to talk about it, you know? Like, if you enjoyed this, let me know your thoughts, please, on this one. I really want to see where you're at with this, and subscribe for more. Goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you, even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on, and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.